Sankofa, you made me laugh, bro. That was funny. We are live. We were just we're having a good time in the studio tonight. All right, Black Box Radio. I am just so excited that the circle is here. A circle is fluid, so it always goes around, and we look like we're fully attended tonight. And got my partners. I got Sankofa, Lady T, Dr. Da, and Queen of B. Y'all hear that ball? That's a ball right there. The DHC number 7 has started. We are in the box. We're in Baltimore, Maryland. It's a beautiful night. It's fall is coming, and we got a lot to talk about tonight. When it comes to healing, the world is chaotic. Things are it's a lot going on in the world, a lot going on in our own private lives. It's just life, and life is life and the world is doing its thing. So I want to say greetings to everyone. We got a great conversation we're about to have. We're going to try to have some healing on here tonight. I don't think we got to introduce anybody. Do y'all want to introduce yourselves, or we just want to just jump in? I mean, we've been introducing ourselves for 3 to 4 weeks now. They need to know us by now. What y'all think?
I'm okay with jumping right on then.
What y'all want to do? Y'all want to introduce yourself to the people, or we just want to jump in and start the circle going? Can I get a consensus, brothers and sisters? What y'all want to do? Nobody's talking.
We can go right on in.
Yeah. We can jump right on in.
All right, so I'm Queen of B, and the circle tonight is important, and I think the biggest importance is the things that's going on in the world, and it shows that humanity. To me, I want to talk a little bit about humanity and oppression and violence and war, and how does it show up more or less in our psyche every day of what we've been through in America. Does it trigger us? Is this something that we're focused on, or is it affecting us in a way that we don't even know yet, or we're just like kind of digesting? How do you guys feel about the conflict in the world? It's a lot of conflict we're talking about in Gaza, Israel, and the Sudan, the Congo, the displaced Africans. It's one of the biggest humanitarian crises going on right now that we don't hear about. 27 million Congolese are displaced due to environment, hunger, so many issues. We can go on and on the issues in the world. Ukraine and Russia is still at war. It's a lot of dissension in the world. And I was just listening to some reports that said that all of the companies are making money. Stocks are doing really good. Northrop and Grumman has made the stocks are splitting, and all of the senators that bought stocks before the war started. So all of this thing, what we hear is the same thing: oppression, pain, people making money off of it, capitalism. I just want to talk about that a little. Anybody want to jump into that? My peoples.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think when you talk about people making money, it's really sad that people they do make money off of war. It's really sad.
Very lucrative.
Yeah. It's actually a proven fact. It's nothing that is hidden. Is in the textbooks and stuff that you see that you actually make money off of people's pain, misery, people losing lives, traumas happening or whatever. I think I was looking at a little kid, Palestinian kid or whatever, in Gaza or whatever, talking about how he don't feel like he can live and stuff like that. He don't have a childhood and stuff like that. And that's really sad. And they've been fighting over there for years or whatever. Yes. So you grow up, you was born into it, and you feel like there's no way out. You know what I mean? So it's just really sad.
I think a lot of that comes with our young people here too. It's just it's expressed differently.
That's true.
But I think the same type of hopelessness, the same type of lack of access. I think that's being expressed, but just in a different way for our young people in the U.S. also, which is unfortunate.
I agree with you.
Which is unfortunate. Marcus, what do you think about that? Jump in.
Yeah, Well, it's definitely a lot going on. Trauma, triggering, um, people with all types of things happening in terms of um, what's going on in the world, in our individual world of self, and in a more global sense of the world. And when you see it compound one after the other, whether you're talking about the conflict with, Palestinians, Israelis, and Hamas and Gaza and all of that, or whether you talk about on more of a local scale, HBCU homecomings, being originally sources of celebration and community gathering, people fearing for their life and all of that, and then vicarious trauma. So even if you're not directly affected by it, secondhand, you see it in the media, you see it in the news, and then you also have people who may have some connections. I think I was reading an article the other day where some people here had family members who were over there overseas, where a lot of the Hamas and Israeli stuff was taking place, and so their anxiety and their uncertainty and their worry and their fear, there's no settling moment, because they don't know what fate has in store, those that are being taken hostage. So there's a lot of things that are happening for sure. And there was a conversation I had with a young man the other day who was saying that, when you see some of the things happening, the genocide and all of those things, it's almost like hard to have any kind of joy, or there's this guilt to do anything pleasurable. Yes. Because how can I, and this is his perspective, how can I take part in something fun, so to speak, when people are getting slaughtered, people are getting separated from their, what I said to him was, that's real. It's understandable, and whatnot. But in the midst of all of it, as you and I talked recently, Queen of B, joy and we do deserve to also have that peace, that joy, and it's really nice when you can get that and not feel guilty for that. And I oftentimes see that, pleasure. Sometimes people, what do we call them? Guilty pleasures. We feel guilty for wanting to experience healness or self-care. So there's a lot going on, but I'll just leave it at that for now. A whole lot going on. That is
a whole lot going on. Yes. The shakeup is real. The shakeup is real. Dr. Dar, you want to drop something on us when it comes to the conflict in the world and how we express that as a community?
I mean, that's a lot. What we're talking about, that's a lot of ground. I mean, I feel like there's a major issue, and the issue tends to be out of fear. It's out of trying to control. It's having a this or that attitude and mindset, those against them against us. And I think holistically, we've all bought into it. And part of the goals of the digital healing circle is to challenge that a bit, because it's so easy to take one side or the other and not consider, the whole. When I think about, even when I went up to Morgan to speak, when I hear people speaking about Gaza and Israel and the Palestinians versus the Israelis, or have you, the
Israelites.
I think that's the biblical Israelis. So hold up, this is only funny. This is only biblical. That's the joke. The funny, the laugh is because you use the biblical term.
Israelites.
The Hebrew Israelites, but no, but no, that there's a this or that. We get so caught up in taking sides. Even the president of the United States, who put out misinformation as a result of having or feeling compelled to take a side and stand on a side without proper information.
Yeah.
And to some degree, for the country that we're in, making decisions for its own global power.
Yeah.
So this is a major issue that I think when we look at it, we must, I mean, from Israel to Morgan State. When I think about it, Brother Saint Kofi, you said that some people have this guilt, and I was talking to a young lady in the class. I was processing some things, and she also had guilt had been on a vacation, and I think she was like probably in the West Indies, and then coming back to find out that people were being shot at Morgan State University. So I think that some of that is necessary, to be honest with you. But I do also get the idea that not allowing that feeling, if we want to label it guilt, to overcome us. But I do think that in order to bring about a certain level of change, we need to feel something. Because I would argue that we're too comfortable when things are going on. And I think there's a difference between self-care and avoiding and ignoring. I think when we talk about self-care, we're talking about preparing ourselves to continue the struggle, continue to fight, to continue the work, to continue to live. And sometimes we take self-care as something that we do exclusively just to really have fun and all this. There's nothing wrong with any of that, because we need a little bit of that. But also, as I was speaking to the students at Morgan, is this piece that we often forget is community care. And I think that's what in our communities that we struggle with. We've learned this new idea because a lot of us are really hit with clinical terms and psychotherapy and self-help and self-this and self-that we forget about the community. And yeah, so I think some of that is necessary. Pardon me if I went off a little.
Well, I think we also are living in a time where we live in a nation that is providing money, bombs, assistance to Israel, and then 100 million to Palestine. It is amazing how we can have both feet in on both sides. Like we could give someone 100 million, but we can also give someone the bombs to bomb the person who we gave money to. I just I don't understand how this happens, and we're all right with it. And I can't say who's right or wrong. What I can say is that we don't arbitrarily just kill people just for the thought of whatever we believe in. We just get rid of everybody. That's just not how it works. And so I have a problem with that portion. I don't want to because I know as soon as you start talking about Israel and Palestine, you don't like Jewish people, and you're pitted against each other. It's not that. What I'm seeing is just lack of humanity across the board, and I don't know how we can give bombs and money to the oppressor and also give money to the oppressed, and then feel that vindicates or negates our involvement in the genocide, because I really think it's genocide. So in all actuality, as a Black person, to me, it seems that the same behavior is being exercised in 2023. We see the same oppressive colonial movements on brown people. And I don't think no one's saying that. Do you guys feel like that, or I'm the only one feeling that way?
So could you just say that again succinctly?
I think in 2023 we're seeing, because technology is very prevalent in this situation, we're seeing actions that are still displayed as being colonial oppression, media marketing, whatever they think should be the narrative at that point. So we all should believe it, and we're all fine with just killing people because someone said that they bombed this one, so we should bomb everybody. And I think that what we're seeing is the same behavior that's been exercised in the world over and over on brown people. And that's what is disturbing to me. Am I the only one feeling like that?
You mean in the group here?
In the group, or really us as Black people? Do we feel that we're seeing the same thing happen in real time in 2023? And it has to trigger us. We have to feel it. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, I think when you ask the questions, I think I can be literal sometimes. So when you say if you're the only person feeling it, I would say, hell, of course you're not.
I say, right? Am I the only? Because I don't hear everybody agreeing, taking a side.
But... Yeah. I mean, but I think if you look at most media, especially Black media, you will hear that there's a more relation to the Palestinians. Okay. I'm not saying everybody, not all people, but and again, I think there's a game, right? It's a game, and I think that's what you're saying. And the media is putting out messages, so on and so forth. And it's a lot of mixed messaging. There's a lot of mixed emotions. There's a lot of mixed feelings around this conversation. On many fronts.
True.
Yeah, it's so yeah, I would say you're not the only person, and there's plenty of people who do agree with you, including people who are of Jewish background or Israeli background, or there's lots of people who feel like this is oppression. A lot of people who are calling it out as oppression, and so you're not alone.
Okay.
I have something I want to add a little bit, if it's okay. Of course. Yeah. So I even would say, you're not alone, but I also think it is kind of different, though, right? So what's different is because of technology or whatever. More people are able to see what's going on.
Yes.
I think more people are advocating and stuff like that. I think, and I do agree that the media normally show you the side that they want you to be on, give you a certain perspective, and don't show you the whole picture type of thing of what's going on. Now I think people are able to maybe see more of the picture and draw their own conclusions, which I think is a really good thing. And in doing so, I think we push back on certain things that's going on that America is doing and stuff like that. I think if this would have happened years ago, before, with social media and stuff like that, I think we would have been funding only going towards Israel, believe it or not. And because of, you have more people speaking up for the Palestinians and stuff like that. So they provided funding for both sides. I'm not going to let go of this person, but I'll settle, I'll put some funding over here to quiet you people, other people who support these folks down or whatever. That's the way I take it. But I do think that we have more power because we are able to see what's going on. It's like a catch-22, because at the same time we are exposed to all this, but it's so much information, so much more violence. You see the violence that's going on in your community, but now it's like a global thing, and it's fighting here, fighting there, and you really see it's uncut, and that's a lot. That can be a lot. It's a lot for me anyway.
We're internalizing it, and
that's some of what I've noticed as well too, in terms of the range of responses to what we're bearing witness to, or to what's transpiring. I think that many who I've come into contact with in many circles and many spaces, they don't even know a whole lot about what's going on maybe on a very minimal scale. On a small scale, they know about the war, but they busy dealing with trying to survive and make it today. And I think that's also a part of, and even the word trauma can sometimes, I believe, can be thrown around so loosely. But I do think that even that is something to be said about that, in terms of not even being in a space to even know what's going on overseas. And I'm trying to still keep my lights on and not get put out my house, or I'm trying to, be safe within my own home, not being violently assaulted in my own abode. Dr. King has a quote that says, "Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere." There's a lot of perspectives, a whole lot of perspectives. And I've seen some, especially recently, some Black folk, they've taken a stance where, we have been here dealing with oppression for so long, more than anybody. So it's like, to put any kind of empathy on the behalf of those overseas that are going through what they're going through, some feel, and this is how, I think some may look at it from what I've come to understand and realize, it overlooks the injustices and the things that have been happening on the ground with Black folk here, and so it's like, well, I'm kind of numb to that. I don't feel, in fact, I don't really care, because this is what we've been dealing with all along, so there's that perspective. Some have also, I've heard say, well, look how, these people, I remember the some, the Jews, how they monopolize entertainment and the media and, and all this kind of thing. And, it's kind of coming home to roost. I'm not saying I feel that way, but I'm saying these are some of the many prevailing perspectives out. So it's almost like, well, about time they started to feel some of this. But on the flip side, I also, there's some history books that have spoken to this, how historically there's been some alliances between the Palestinians and the Blacks, the Jews and the Blacks, and the civil rights struggle, and Black power kind of showed them how to organize in their own way. So there's a whole lot of misinformation, a lot of information out there. I would say, though, what can humanize us, or what helps to bring into the fold the humanity, is being able to feel and empathize. And I think that can even sometimes be a double-edged sword, because feeling is what makes us connect with each other. Feeling is what connects human to human. But then then the challenge then is also feeling. And so the question then becomes, what is the balance or the thin line between feeling and feeling? Feeling is important, but then sometimes we get overwhelmed from feeling too much, so it's tricky. It's very nuanced, in my opinion, and very multifaceted and very complicated. People show up in this space with this issue in different places. I would say, different perspectives, different worldviews, in different places.
That's it. That is true. You want to add anything, Dr. Don?
No, I mean, I agree. I think that even with my brothers and sisters who feel that way, on either side of the argument, right? I still even feel for them. I still have empathy for them. I understand why we would feel that way. And a lot of times that's being used against us with the media, and even us as we talk here today. The reality is, even we talk with care, with not want to be called anti this or anti that, or and so I think that the reality is, but I do understand my dear brothers and sisters who also feel that way, because I mean, it is a reality that and again, I'm clear enough to know that not everybody in any group means us harm, but I'm also clear that other groups have caused us much harm, and even
Yep.
those who have good intentions cause harm with ignorance. I'm also clear that if I can empathize with them, and I'm being honest and straight up, I do empathize for people who are um, being murdered and all these type of things. But there's also a reality that if you oppress a people long enough, something's bound to happen. And I think we have to be clear, because even us in our um, stay here in the United States, we're just not uncomfortable enough in many situations to arise, because the same thing has been used against us, right? Some people will call what happened with the Freddie Gray riots, others will call it an uprising. I tend to be the person to call it an uprising. You understand? And and so I think that, again, I understand all the different perspectives, and and I think it's important that we allow people to go through their healing process before before we even think that they can really even empathize with somebody else. Because if you have so much pain, you can't empathize with so many people. And that's what trauma is like, you know. And yeah, I lost my train of thought, but I think it's very important to know that um things are going to happen if you oppress the people long enough, and that's including us. And even us, to a great degree, we're just waiting for us to get to that point that we bring about change that's beneficial for our community who's been oppressed in America and across the world. You know, and to some degree, Dr. Amos Wilson speaks about this idea that we often think about um, people controlling us with what they're going to take away from us. But
Mm.
he said that it's really more so that they control us with what they give us. So I
Mm.
think that we've grown very comfortable in a sense with what we received, even though it's not much at all, at least for the collective. Um, yeah,
Mm.
it's a very complex situation. It's complex feelings. It's complex emotions, and and to a great degree, I understand all of the perspectives, and I understand how people get lost in these battles, you know, in these fights, these feuds, and how strong emotions can literally thwart your ability to process information clearly. But that's what happens with trauma, because it ain't about processing clearly. It's about surviving.
It is. It is. Wow, that's a word. You threw a word down. That really really made sense. And you're right. We are kind of choosing what we say because you can't particularly say if you say this about Jewish people, then you're anti-Semitic. If you say this, then you're anti this, and you can't. It's hard to feel sometimes because you got to tiptoe around your feelings because you feel you're going to get attacked if you feel for real. So are you for real feeling? You
And,
know the Baltimore
and
word for real for real.
your broadcast might even be taken down.
Yeah. They might come after me but really, I'm telling the truth. Listen, there's a
Mhm,
problem I see in the world. It triggers me as a Black person.
mhm,
These are. It's very scary to see in 2023 we're still openly oppressing brown people. There's an issue, and the context of the whole story hasn't been told. And there's nothing against anyone. We're just talking about truth. And the
yeah,
problem is when you speak truth, that's hate speech.
yeah.
That's a
That's
problem. That's
it's
that's the problem we have in the world right now.
it's a fact that groups of people oppress other groups of people, and I
A
think
fact.
that even as Brother Sankofa clearly stated earlier, that some of us clearly think about how Jewish people have controlled certain forms of media and things. Is that all Jewish
Absolutely.
people? No, but is it some? Yes. You understand? There's people who oppress people in all groups, but Black people in America, I'm going to speak about us. People have oppressed us, literally, and still
Yep.
do, and make a lot of money off of us. And
Yes.
I make a lot of money off of our oppression. And I think
Exactly.
that is important that we call that out. But again, in a way that is not as best as possible used as fuel for others.
Okay. That's real nice.
You know, the challenging part about human suffering is that it is just that it, you know, when acts of violence and slaughter and oppression, violence, you know, it can take a toll on the body, mind, body, spirit, and it can do damage. But I think that meaning can also come about through suffering and the experiences that we have. And when you look at what's happened in Cross Seas, or even look at what happened at, you know, Morgan State, I know even, you know, Bowie State, you know, for what I understand, which is Morgan State and Bowie State are my alma maters. Something went down both of those instances. One of the things that I thought was a nice outcome of what happened, and this isn't me trying to bypass or overlook the unfortunate circumstances, but I remember with Morgan State, for example, I was watching the news story and they were saying that parents, you know, days after the violence ensued, were coming down from New Jersey, New York, Philly, because a lot of the students who go to Morgan State are from those places, DC even, and they were getting their students, taking them back home, but every student didn't have a parent to come and get them. Every student didn't have a family member. But what happened, there were some folks in the community who just showed up on campus and gave out hugs. I don't know if some of y'all saw that story, but they gave hugs to students who didn't have families to come and pick them up and take them. They gave, you know, there were even visuals and services and memorials commemorating and, you know, holding safe space. So when things like this happen, and you know, this is what, like we say, the digital healing, you know, circle, you know, it can also inject a wake-up call for us to get back to that community that we speak about theoretically, or to tighten back up, connect more, and even have a renewed sense of gratitude. You know, I couldn't help to see the father when they were interviewing him. You know, he had a little girl around the same age as my daughter, Zuri, 5. He didn't know where his daughter was. He didn't know where his wife was. You know, he didn't know where his family was. He just said, you know, they said, do you have anything to say? Any final words? He was like, please, wherever you are with my family, please don't hurt them. To me, I get gratitude appreciating what I have, because so oftentimes we can take for granted what we have, which, to what Brother Dennis is saying, like, we get comfortable, and like, I think about how sometimes we can even lose gratitude and appreciation for what we have, because we don't have to have these things. We don't have to have, people don't have to be around, people don't have to be in our life. You know, people don't, you know, we assume things are going to be the way they are, and that's part of that comfort. So, you know, I think that one of the things that could come of all of this is basically it could keep us on our toes, and it could just remind us of the important things and the meaningful things as we continue to move forward and still yet deal with the challenge of what has transpired.
I love how neutral you guys are and how loving you are, which is beautiful. so beautiful.
Well, I think that's
I love Marcus, how you just you know, you kind of quelled that, but you're right. I mean, and
that sounds too cute, Queen of B. That sounds too cute.
No, it's not that it's too cute. It's just that, you know, it's we're able here, unfortunately, to sit here in this healing circle and to really kind of talk this thing out, communicate it out, connect at life experience as Black people, and talk about this. And it's not just what's going on in Gaza. We have problems right here in old Baltimore, as you say, Morgan and Bowie, and just in the streets alone. Just, I mean, things that are happening. I mean, fires in the city, firemen are dying in houses in 2023. I mean, these are things that's happening that we can avoid. I mean, so many things happening, and it starts with some type of neglect. Even when it comes to these fires that we're seeing in the city, and as it gets cold, we're going to see more things and more things happening. But I just want us to be aware that we are in a space that we're being triggered by the media also. A lot of the things that's out there is for our consumption, but also for us to think a certain way. So we have to be very careful how we filter information and how we digest it and manifest it as we move along. Because as Black people, to me, it just seems that every time we look at something, it's always about some attack on one of us in some way. And it's the same people. People say, oh, these are Jewish people, but yes, they are Europeans. So let's be clear. They're European Jews that are in that area. And so it's just, to me, something that we should think about. And also when we're at home, we have to find a way to kind of digest all of this stuff we're going through and seeing on an everyday basis.
Yeah, but for me, I agree. Some people have that thought pattern, but I'm thinking like, yeah, that's true, right? But you don't want to live in that space all the time. That's why I'm thinking. You don't want to live in a space of anger and frustration, but really that actually can be used against you. Actually, believe it or not, you could be all angry and see red or whatever, and then you can end up hurting yourself. Even though you're trying to attack someone, because you have to come out and stuff like that, right? So I think I want to be in like live in reality or whatever. It's not all, you know what I mean? It's some, you know what I mean? Yes, we as a people as a whole, yes, I can say oppression has happened. It do happen on today, yeah, it happens or whatever. But I'm not going to go out and every Caucasian person I see, you know what I mean? Bop them side their head or whatever, you know what I mean?
No,
I'm just saying, like, or you so angry because it is happening. Now you're taking this frustration out on your family. That's a real thing. We do that in our community. We taking it out on each other. That's exactly what we seeing in our street. A lot of people have this frustration and all this type of stuff. Sometimes I feel like they don't even really know where it's coming from. You know what I mean? They really don't know what they're dealing with or whatever. And next thing you know, they have this outburst. And it's their own brother. You know what I mean? When I'm saying their own brother, they don't look like just like them or whatever. So that's why I'm saying we have to know, I guess, processing these emotions, being able to speak, learn how to use our words or whatever. We put words to our feelings and stuff like that. I just don't want to be living. I really don't want to live in a place where there's anger. I do believe it's called for at times or whatever, that you have to get angry at something, at times or whatever, but I don't want to stay there. You know what I mean? Go in, do what you got to do. And, you got to still live. You know what I mean? And you don't want to have that. I don't know. I don't want that in my spirit all day, 24/7, because it can kill you. That's all I can say.
Yeah. I like that. I don't think we should live in it, but I think we have to recognize it and like communicate it out, like you said, and put like words to our feelings, and being able to kind of decipher the things that go around us and understand that the attack sometimes is something that could empower you to be better in your space and help others. So yeah, I like that.
I think even when we sit here and we say that from our I hate to use this word, but it's the word that everybody knows in 2023, from our privileged positions through social media.
What's the word?
Privileged, right? I think everybody understands that. And I often struggle with that word myself oftentimes, whether I like it or not, or the usage or the overusage or the usage, especially as it pertains to white people. But definitely, I think I think there's other feelings besides anger, right? So I think we have a whole people saying a whole spectrum of feelings, right?
Yes.
And whether that be negative or positive, I think the thing is, what I hear is this: often extremes in how we do things, right? I'm going to challenge Brother Sankofa as bypassing, by the way. So, and then I'm going to say, well, that there's this bypassing piece, and then there's this piece where we're totally in it, right? It's like we're in it real heavily. We're in it so heavy that it is that anger piece that Sister Trina's talking about. So to help us cope with our feelings, I think maybe sometimes bypassing is okay, but I think that at times it keeps us in the same place where we are. But I think you can feel deeply, right? And still be healthy. I think you can look at the big picture and also include those pieces that are not necessarily, you can include all the beauty in the world, but at the same time, simultaneously, we can include all the horror. And I think if we can do those in conjunction, and as Sister Trina said, look at the reality of the thing. I think that we need to feel, to be honest with you. I'm just clear on the idea that we need to feel so that we can, because feelings tell you something.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was about to say that.
Feelings, nothing wrong with feeling. It's about what can I do with these feelings. And again, I'll go get my list back there, but I don't want to leave the camera. But I think that it's okay. Like, for example, I just be honest with you. As I hear Brother Sankofa talking about the hug, and I don't want to call you out, Brother Sankofa, right? I think that's beautiful, right? I do think it's beautiful, but my mind only goes to say what happens after that camera moment.
Yeah.
Right. And what do we do after that, right? And this is just switching the subject just a bit. I'm a little frustrated, and that's a feeling, with people across mediums and platforms capturing moments for ratings, whether that be CNN, ABC, or any of your brothers and sisters on IG, right? And we're not feeling enough. I don't know what the feeling is to really get out there and do some things. And again, I said we have to do things on many levels. But I do understand that even if that feeling is enough to go and do the work on yourself, right? Even if that's enough to go on, to do the work on yourself, so that we can. I don't think we're feeling enough. So I don't think there's enough people out in the streets. Really, I just be honest. I don't think enough of us are feeling enough to bring about change. I feel like to many degrees, we've cut off from our feelings.
Wow.
And we're bombarded with the trauma, which not only keeps us from not really caring about what's going on in what the so-called Middle East, that we're not even concerned with what's going on right on our very streets. And that's not saying anybody on this panel, but that is saying in general.
As you were saying what you were saying, I was thinking like, yeah, I mean, the feeling piece, to me at least, it's definitely complicated. Because I guess the way people feel, I guess perhaps that's where they are in their level of healing and development, even how they feel. I know some claim, and I'm sure 3 of us have at some point in time heard it. I'm an empath. And I would suggest that even as we feel, it's probably healthy to have a balance even in that, because I think that because I do think we can be numb. And perhaps that could even be a coping mechanism to protect ourselves from not having to feel, which I think is problematic. But I think on the other side of the spectrum, when the slightest you know, it almost like we're so sensitive, and we feel everything, and then our emotions. And I agree. I think our emotions are important, especially in today's society. The intellect, I feel like, is valued higher. I think that emotions remind us about how human we are, but I think that sometimes the emotions can be the sole driver of a lot of the actions that we have. And so I think I'm still thinking about just the complexity of feeling and what it means, and what it looks like for people. And, you're right. There are definitely folks who do the photo ops and who show up, capitalize, and, all of those types of things. And I don't know what was happening before, after, whatnot. But I think that, like one of the things that I said beforehand, I think we live in a culture, and this is what I believe. I think we live in a culture where there's so much that's happening: violence, oppression, trauma, all these things. I think that when you do want to have some enjoyable moments or some pleasures, I think there's a certain type of perception that you're not allowed to have that. Like, our ancestors suffered, bled, and died. Our ancestors were slaughtered, murdered, killed. So, and I think this is indicative to the culture we live in. I sleep when I die. That grind culture, that on the push, on the move, on the go. It's almost like, and even what I realized, even in some conscious circles early on, when I, first got involved, there was this certain type of disposition where it's like, the enemy don't rest, so we can't rest. But I think, though, in the midst of the war, I think that it is still good to be able to have joy and to have peace and to be able to have good times, laugh. Some people smile even, like, I believe there's room and space to still be fighting and yet to be able to have this that I speak of as well. One doesn't have to negate the other. But I find that, once again, if why I gotta be, why, if I don't know, if you happen to doing something to restore or or whatever, why does it have to then be, it's complicated. It's so complicated. I'm not even getting it out as clear as I want to get it out. So, I hope that y'all I'm trying to go.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I agree with I agree with it. I think you're saying much of what I said. I'm not sure if this is in response to what I said, but I agree with. I think what you said almost mirrored what I said, as far as taking into the whole. You understand? Taking in the whole. But I will say that as a majority of us. Now, it might be different when you talk about the conscious circles and this and that and the other. And, there's some shaming that happens, but and even these conscious circles, these are very small circles when we take into the picture of consideration the most of our community. And I do believe that, again, operating in extreme on any side becomes problematic. And what happens is we become extremely lackadaisical Most of us don't really. I mean, honestly, I'm not an expert on what's going on in the Middle East. I just want to say that. But I do proclaim to be pretty good with what's going on here. You understand? And but what I but and from my vantage point, again, there is not enough of us. We haven't reached the point. I'm not going to manufacture it either. So let me be that clear. Let me be clear, and not enough of us are feeling the reality of what's going on. A lot of us are doing what one of my mentors, Dr. Gregory, says one of our major skills, or the most overly used way of coping in this society, is avoidance.
That's what I was thinking.
And so what I'm saying, including myself at times, I have had to use that. And what I am saying is that too many of us use that. And sometimes we don't realize we're using it. And as far as everybody being in their place on their healing journey, that's fair. But again, this is where this person is on their healing journey, where one is feeling too much and one is avoiding too much. I agree. One is avoiding too much, one is feeling too much. I'm gonna say it one more time. One is feeling too much and one is avoiding too much. Either way, that is, both of them are problematic. And that does not mean that we don't say, well, look, here's healing. Healing is doing something more about combining the feelings with the with the intellect, and really knowing what's going on and also feeling what's going on. But you don't have to be guilty. You don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to feel depressed, but you can feel motivated. You can feel injustice sometimes. You can feel happy sometimes. You can look at the whole world for what the whole world brings you. And there's a piece of this that I think that America does very well, which makes us very sensitive and unrealistic and delusional, is a lot of this type of behavior and these things is going on. We're so far removed from these things, as far as what's going on out in the Middle East. We don't even think that could happen here. It's somewhere in our minds we don't feel like that can happen. Just like the COVID-19 pandemic, and somewhere in our mind we never thought it was going to get that far. And we are very avoidant. One, I'm talking about as a culture here in the United States, we're very fragile. Two, and avoidance does create fragility. And when you look at the best avoidant people are those who are our oppressors. And I'm not saying I give up. I'm not a fighter. I don't have resistance, that they got their foot on my neck and I want to leave it there. Nah, that ain't me. But what I am saying is the oppressors of this particular society, they have learned to create a false reality. And like everybody's walking around like we really buy into this reality of all this face. Like it's like what is like? It's like a facing. Everything looks good when all what's under it is some BS. What's under it is corruption. You got very pretty buildings, nice trees, parks, and all these things. But really, what's supporting all this stuff? You know, and I'm not saying that the trees aren't pretty. They are. You know, I appreciate the trees. But what I am saying is it takes us out of the reality of what's going on and not only what's going on in Lebanon and Syria and Africa and Israel and all these other places. It takes us out of the reality of what's going on right around the corner from us. And many of us take the long way home so that we can avoid seeing the plight. And hence we become very detached from it. You understand? I take the long way. I take the short way home often so I can stay connected, because I know how easy it is for me to go and live a latte life. You understand? Because I can go and drink a latte, but even when I'm drinking a latte, I'm saying to myself, damn, my people ain't here. You understand? And I'm not saying I don't enjoy drinking my latte, but I don't enjoy being the only black mother skipper up in the place. Do I enjoy teaching at a school? Yes, I do. But I don't enjoy being the only black person in school. Do I enjoy having a business? I enjoy having the business, having the intellect of having the business, and all the many things I do. The letters in front of my name, the letters behind my name, and all this BS. I'm sorry, not call it all BS. Let me take that back. But you understand what I'm trying to say. All these things that my people, though, are being shut out of. And I know that if we were given a chance, there's no way that we should be so oppressed. But at the same time, I understand that we only like. So I'm getting like Sankofa at this moment. Like I don't know. but you know, it's complex. I'm gonna say like he said, it's complex. But the reality, what I'm suggesting is we have to tap back in. Most of us are not tapped in. We don't know what's going on. We don't. I tell you who do know what's going on, and she needs to tap out a bit, and that's Queen. She does have to tap out a bit because she lives that every damn day. And that's what I'm saying. Like Queen needs to step out of it to some degree. We're in a healing circle, right? So
he calling you out, Queen. He calling you out
because
why you gotta call me out? This is the problem.
Because Queen knows everything that's going on.
No, so I don't.
Well, I'm being general. I'm being general. You know a lot. Let me say, you know a lot. And you like
I see things and I just want us to be able to unpack it.
Yeah.
And for us to unpack it, we have to be
It's nothing wrong with it. It's nothing wrong with it. I appreciate you for the work that you're doing. But I do want you not to get overconsumed by it, because you will not be able to continue to fight if you don't care for yourself. And you're doing a wonderful job out there in those B-more streets, in those South Carolina streets, in those other streets. But it'll get us to a place where we're not as functional if we don't do self-care. And I think that's what we're talking about.
I love it. Listen, let me jump in the chat a little. We got some good stuff in the chat. We got people jumped in the chat and they're not holding back. We are so blessed to have Baba Imhotep. Give thanks for having him tonight.
Peace,
he
Baba.
said oppression. Yeah, Big Baba. Oppression breeds resistance. That is true. It says anger properly channeled is a catharsis. That's a big statement. And we've had some good statements in the chat tonight about this is kind of made people say something. Smile Forever 66. She said definitely it's scary to see that in 2023 Black people are still being oppressed and that marginalized groups are oppressing other marginalized groups. That's a big statement.
That's the goal, though. I mean, that right there is the.
Unfortunately, that's the goal of it. Yeah.
So that's
what oppression does. That's what it's for.
Well, and the fact is, when we start to say the marginalized group is oppressing the marginalized group, we can just skip over that. I'm sorry, pardon me, and say the minority is oppressing the minority is oppressing the majority. Who we are calling marginalized groups, and they're still inflicting their oppression through what Paulo Freire calls sub-oppressors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that I do see is it's almost like a dichotomy. Like if you've been oppressed, now you become the oppressor, and then feign as if you're not oppressing. It's almost like a mental illness. Like, listen, like, how are you a group that says that you're ultimately been oppressed and history shows you've been oppressed? Now you become the oppressor and then feign that you're not oppressing. But the story and contextual, you are this is oppressive. So, but we act as if it's not happening. And you had this happen to you in a grand scale. How could you emulate the same behavior to someone else? But it shows that when power gets in certain hands, no matter what, it manifests to these type of oppressive control measures that we see in the world, and it's unfortunate. So
yeah, I feel like that's what we. I feel like it's because that's what we know. You know, when you're oppressed, that's like it's almost like if you grew up in an abusive household or whatever,
you abuse.
Exactly. So I that's what I take from that or whatever.
Yeah, I think you, Lady T, said this even earlier in our conversation, like on many levels, from like people want that power, that sense of control, So if you are not getting that from your supervisor, or if you're not getting that in other instances, you try to make up for what is lacking, perhaps, or and blow that trauma through your child or your spouse or whomever else, and it's unresolved. Hurt people, as they say. Even look on a larger scale. You look at Europe, and then you look at United States, breaking away, to some of those ways, those oppressive ways, and then only to, then the institution of slavery, of enslavement, and then that taking place and ensuing. So that power, that feeling of validation, that control, greed, because that power, greed over wanting the power, it's vicious, vicious, and it's dangerous. And then I would even also say on the flip side, and I'm sure Brother Dennis probably has done some research into this as well too, those who have been victimized, there's research that suggests that even if it's unhealthy for them, they, and oftentimes many instances, will go right back to the toxic environment, the toxic relationships, and the traumatic spaces, even though it's not healthy for them, because hey, maybe that's familiar, hey, maybe that's what they know, or something different is uncomfortable. So even that's complicated as well, I would say. So that control piece, and it's interesting. I also say this, I thought about this a few moments ago. I remember with our group, TNAT, we used to do our economic media fast. And when it came to social media and, the things we would expose ourselves, so we would read, or we would listen to music, or we would watch, all of those things, there were some who could not even think about not keeping up with the news and what was happening 24/7, constantly around the clock, because to not do that, they felt was making themselves more vulnerable. And it was putting themselves out on Front Street as being naked, and they couldn't because the control was in the know. The more I know, the more I could control. To be honest, y'all, there'd be times I'll be like, look, I ain't gonna go all of it and become an expert on every single news piece of news. I can't study every single piece of news that drops. I can't do it. I can't do it. Look, I'm not saying that. Okay, let me be clear. I'm not trying to say to bypass it or avoid. But this world we live in, it's constant stories. It's so I can't keep up. So yeah, I just thought about that as well too. That sometimes we want to, know so much for that control. It's like, well, hey, sometimes we got to be comfortable with knowing we can't maybe know it all.
Yeah, I agree with that. One thing I would urge us to do is not do that, because I think it's overwhelming for our senses. It's overwhelming for it paints a distorted picture of the reality of the world in its completeness. But I do think what we could do is focus on what's literally happening in our areas, which is more natural. I think to some degree, knowing everything out, everything out that's a million miles away from. Not to say this is not important, because I think people should do that as well, because we are. I don't know what you call it, a global economy, a global society, and that
international citizens.
All that type of thing. But I do think we have to tap out of this media, because it can be overwhelming for many of us. And also, but really, I think that even to a degree, it can take us away from what's happening in our areas. And many times we don't even really know what's going on in our own areas. We really think, again, we live in these places where nothing is going down. I guarantee you, I don't care where you live. I don't care if you live in the urban, the suburban, or the rural. There's something going on that you don't know about that you need
Absolutely.
that to some degree that there's a struggle. You understand? And there's people being oppressed in these areas, and we can focus our attentions there. That's not to say that we don't also work with others, because we are, what you say, international citizens and all that type of thing. But I do think that well, I'm not going to say I know that one of my things that I often do, as Brother Sankofa just mentioned, is suggest that my clients personally, people I work with, the groups that I work with, the people that I work with professionally, not professionally, my homie, my home girls, my all this and all that, is that we step back from some of this stuff, because again, as was stated here earlier, and I agree that there's toxic levels of anger, and maybe anger can be cathartic. However, anger also can be very toxic, especially if it's not. So I think the key word that Bob Imhotep said was if it's channeled correctly, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of us are not channeling, or there's different definitions of anger and so on and so forth. There's some people think no anger is good, but I don't think anything that the creation has created is totally bad. I think it serves a purpose. Now, when it's something overly is utilized and abused, then we got some issues going on, and we can prove that through not just mental health issues, but physiological health issues.
Yeah, I think it's a point if you like stay in that state for long periods of time, what makes it unhealthy. I agree when you say nature, we have these emotions for a reason. They are signals, it's communicating to us, and we need to understand, okay, what is this feeling? What is it telling me to do? What do I need to do? Or whatever. And anger bring about change, actually. That's how we have our freedom right here now today. Our ancestors was not okay with their circumstances or whatnot, and they pushed back on it, and out of anger, you know what I mean, frustration or whatever. So and I wanted to actually even go back to the feeling thing or whatever. I was waiting, but Doc, like he goes in.
Go ahead,
that's all good. That's all good. So no, so I was thinking about even with the feeling piece or whatever. I was just thinking about how so many of us are afraid to feel or whatever, and you was talking about avoidance and stuff like that. So I was thinking, like, a lot of times when we go into our feelings, it means, like, if we really stop and confront what we are feeling, that means we have to take actions or confront a thing or whatever. We may not have the tools to be able to process or dissect it, those feelings and emotions and stuff like that. I don't even want to say. So, what do you advise? This is going to Dr. Winkler. Like, what would you do? Like, because I like to even give people like tools and stuff like that. Because even in our community, definitely in our community or whatever, I do see a lot of avoidance or whatever. Avoidance. I'm gonna drink, go to alcohol. I'm gonna do this drug or whatever. I don't want to feel this. This thing is scary. I don't want to confront. I'm gonna have to confront this, and when I confront it, is all these bad memories coming. This is the thing that I'm trying to avoid. So you got to get through it. Now, how this is just me just thinking about that person. How I'm going to get through that? How am I going to get to the other side of this pain that I'm feeling or this anger that I'm feeling? You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I think that's fair. I think that again, I think that's why this circle is so wonderful, right? I was even just thinking before you asked that question. I think you threw me an alley hoop. Brother Sankofa's he knows about basketball, so I think you threw me an alley hoop to say this weekend we're having our For the People community healing and enrichment circle at TNET Holistic Wellness Center. Come out and let's discuss these things. Let's learn these skills. I would love to see Brother Sankofa in the building.
Well, I was just about to say, you know what?
Wait a minute. First, say when is it? When is the
so it's this Saturday. What is it? 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. I think it is, Trina.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's Lady T. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna get you.
Lady T. Okay, so it's 11 11 to you said 1
Five,
at Tina
yeah,
on
Tina,
Saturday.
5525 Hoffman Road. Another thing, we have groups throughout the week. So I just ended a group. Brother Curtis is in the other room doing a group. And if you want to join this movement of groups, we're looking to create and facilitate and create healing circles throughout this TNAT Temple of New African Thought, TNAT Holistic Wellness Center, and also throughout the community and the world even. So anybody who want to jump on that movement, I've been putting it out there. Ain't nobody jumping, But what I'm saying, I mean, some people jumping, but not. Go ahead, Sister Trina.
No, you said groups. You said Brother Curtis is doing a group, and you just ended one. Can you just say, like, at least mention the group so people know what type of group?
So I had thank you. So I had a co-ed. So a co-ed. So what would the world be without beautiful, knowledgeable, intelligent sisters? You understand? So to keep us on track, right? So because she said I'm all over the place. Oh, but look, but nonetheless, I just ended a co-ed group for brothers and sisters. It's a healing circle. That group went from 5 o'clock today to 6:30. Brother Curtis is doing a group currently. Is a support group for men, for my Brothers Helping Brothers initiative. I also do women groups on Mondays. Yes, I do women groups. They ask me and summons me to do women's groups. So this is for, but they actually do, they're doing the healing. And I'm there and I'm facilitating, helping as much as possible as well. But from 4 to 5:30 on Mondays, every Monday for women's groups, and on Tuesdays I have men groups and they're also facilitating their healing as well, from 11 o'clock to 12:30 ish. Which is a men's healing group. And I'm looking to do many more groups. Brother Sankofa and I are looking to do some things once he stopped being so important. He got all types of things going on. He's important people,
He's important.
people are important.
He's in high demand.
He
can't help it. He can't help it.
He not important. He potent. He potent.
That's right.
Potent.
That's right. He can be in his bag.
I always like potent people though, because they have skill sets and abilities. But nonetheless, he and I, we have a few transition things going on right now, but we've been in the talks of doing some things and really pushing in this healing, this history versus, healing via history, and some other language that we've kind of come up with. And I can't remember it right now, Brother Sankofa, but yes, look out for that.
Yep, definitely so.
I love it. Listen, we are an hour and 13 minutes in. So
and Sister Queen to be also, this is a healing platform, and I appreciate how this conversation went today. I'm sorry, Queen, but I appreciate how this conversation went today, and us having this dialogue, even this crossover, and even back and forth a bit, because I think this is what is a dialectical process. That just sounds smart, right? So healing is a dialectical process. We must struggle through it. You understand? That's it.
Yeah, I think this has been amazing. And I think that, and I know that speaking and talking and communicating, those are all therapy. It's all spaces where we can heal. And being that we have like experiences in the world and sometimes unlike experiences, talking about it definitely gives us a process to be able to be better, do better, and look at things better in the world. And so I really appreciate you guys tonight. Anybody want to leave something with the people? You all kind of left some greatness tonight. I really enjoyed this circle. Anybody want to leave a nice jewel for the people? Dr. Da, you're going to drop us one before we go?
You are so funny.
Drop us something.
That latte life.
Yeah, you know how to put that latte life. That was bars.
Okay. You asked me, do I have any final words or something like that?
Yeah, final words. Because this is C7. We spoke about feelings. We spoke about avoidance. We spoke about being our best selves, self-care. So we really touched on a lot when it comes to not just what's happening internationally. I love what you said about, can we just focus and not avoid what's going on in our lives? I mean, like what's around the corner, what we see every day. Because when you oppression gives you this thing where you just want to just get through. So you don't have time to look for other stuff, but can we stop avoiding and just be present inside of our lives today? So I want us to kind of pack all of that, what we said today, into a nice jewel so that people can take something home nice as we move away from the circle into DHC number 8 coming next month.
I mean, I'm not sure if I can rise to that question that you asked, but I do want to say this. I want to impart the idea that not getting caught in this us against them mentality, which I think is fueling a lot of the stuff that goes on in society and inside the war that's going on there, and not to get caught up in the us against them in our communities, not to get caught up in the us against them in our homes, our household, or me against you. And so let's not get caught up in this black and white thinking. Let's think for ourselves, because I really think we have a very immature society that we live in. I just have to call it what it is. And because we're in a very, and I'm not saying that we are all immature in the society, but I'm saying as a whole, the society has been run by some, as a whole, not each individual, from very immature, emotionally inept people in powerful places that don't and should not have they don't even have control of their own lives, and are out here ruining while trying to rule others' lives. So I would say, don't get caught up in their politic. Don't get caught up in their pain that they're perpetuating on others, because the pain that's unresolved in them. Do your healing, do our healing, so we can see the picture clearer and not get caught up to perpetuate the healing. Peace.
Whoa, whoa. Love that. Listen, guys, like, share, subscribe, blow up the DHC circle, the digital healing circle. We really want to continue doing this. This, I think, is such a beautiful thing for us to be able to communicate like this once a month and honestly talk about our feelings and kind of connect, and also get some historical analysis. We got the Sankofa in the joint. Then we get that research from the Dr. Dodd and Lady T just smooth it all over for all of us. So it has been a beautiful night.
What you do? What you do? Like, you can.
I just keep us all smooth. I smooth it all out for everybody.
Okay. Okay. So you okay? So, all right.
So we had Dr. Da, we had Lady T, we had Sankofa, and now Queenie B. We out of here. DHC 7 is boxed up and out. Can I get some deuces from everybody? We out of here.
Peace,
family. Good night.
Peace.
Good night, family. We're going away, y'all. Good night, everyone.
She loves to say that on camera.
I don't want y'all going nowhere.
She's